the first feature that we want to do monthly is to talk about the importance of, I'll call it one Rotary. Not my term, but it's a term I like to use, which shows how Rotary is most effective when public image, membership, and the Rotary Foundation are working together, and the key role that public image plays in maximizing our impact. The North Platte Rotary Club is doing a project in Kenya, and I think this really does show effectively how when public image got involved, not only was the project able to be more successful because of more participation, but maybe a couple members joined as well. So I'd like to introduce the district governor down there, Bob Maber in District 5630, and Dr. Kim Baxter, who has been part of that program as well, to take it away from here. So Bob, I saw you unmute yourself, so I'm thinking you're going first.
Yes, I am Bob Maber from 5630, and very honored today to present to you folks. And basically, I'm going to run the PowerPoint, and Dr. Kim Baxter, who has been running this project from its inception a few years ago, is going to talk. So I believe we have about 10 minutes. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yes, indeed. Yep. And I just made you a co-host, and Scott's just joining us, so he'll be able to chime in at the end as well.
Okay. Well, let's see if is everybody seeing my screen now? All right. Well, Dr. Baxter, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us to speak today. I'm going to try to talk really fast, which is not my forte, as Bob knows, but there's a lot to tell about this project, and I'm cutting out a lot of it. Bob just wants me to run with it, and usually he and I kind of tag team this, but he wants me to just go ahead and run with it today. So I'm an optometrist here in North Platte, Nebraska. Been a Rotarian since being in practice 41 years. So my dad was a district governor, and I'm definitely a big believer in Rotary. So as an optometrist, one of the ways I've figured out I can best give back to humanity is through taking VOSH trips, Volunteer Optometric Services to Humanity, that stands for. Every state has their own chapter. Our Nebraska chapter has been to a lot of different Latin American and Caribbean countries. What we do is we provide just very abbreviated eye exams, refractions, that then we try to match patients up with the closest pair of donated eyeglasses we have in our inventory. So I've done a lot of this over the years. I've been able to involve our two kids, my wife Nancy and I, our son Craig and daughter Michaela, that have been with me on a number of these trips. So about 9.5 years ago, I found I was looking for a trip that I could take my kids on during their Christmas break at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I found a group out of Iowa that was going to Kenya. And so I joined up with them. My son Craig came along. He had been working as an optician's assistant at an eye care office in Lincoln, Nebraska, and had enough experience where he was very valuable to the team on that trip. So we went to Kenya, as Bob's pointing out there, actually Western Kenya, right close to Lake Victoria. It's the village where we spend most of our time is called Shikunga, and it's nearby a village of about 2 million called Kakamega. So Bob's going to rifle. That was the group that went on that original trip. Craig and myself are in the background there in the middle on the back row. And this was a very memorable trip in a lot of ways, special. Every trip is special in its own way, but we got ready to leave, and Craig said to me, he said, "Dad, we got to come back here. These people really need us." And I said, I promised him we would. Craig was getting ready to start optometry school. And I said, especially when you're done with school and we're in practice together, we'll come here again and try to see what else we can do besides eye care, maybe to help these people. So that's kind of how our connection started. There's a little building where we did some of our eye care work there in the village. So we do estimates of their correction. Little handheld auto refractor there. You see one of the leader of our team, Dr. Ralph DeHaan. And there's myself estimating correction with a very simple bit of equipment that we have to do that besides the auto refractor. So we would determine the correction, and then volunteers. Craig helped a lot with trying to find the closest pair of eyeglasses to match them up with. So in conjunction, there you see Craig looking for some glasses, and then a couple other shots Bob will show of Craig dispensing glasses to different patients there. In conjunction with that trip, we found out that the village was badly in need of a water storage tank. They had a well and they had electricity and a pump. So I had a means of pumping water out of the borehole, but no way to store the water. So our club and another club here in town bought them a water storage tank. Otherwise, they'd hauling their water in by hand from 5 miles away. So you'll see a picture of a lady. There were a lot of orphans in the village. A few shots you see of them, and Craig, the orphan boys, just really bonded with Craig. He spent time playing with them, and they loved him. And so you see the water that they were getting out of the ravine and hauling it up. And so we got the water storage tank for them. And a few years after that, the borehole dried up due to drought. And with money from a memorial fund for my son, we were able to purchase or have a professional well drilled that has been a lifeblood of that village since then. So there's a shot of the well, or the faucet for the well, and a few other storage tanks besides the original water storage tank we bought. So there've been other. We were setting out about 4 years ago. Actually, no, I'm going to say 6 years ago, to do a global grant project in that area. We wanted to build a medical clinic in that village, and we got a ways into it and found out that wasn't going to fly because we couldn't prove long-term sustainability that's required of the global grants. And so we asked the people from the Rotary Club that we were connected with on biweekly Zoom conferences. We asked them and a few of the people from the Ministry of Health who had also been joining us on the Zoom calls, what else is a critical need in your area that we could address with a global grant? And they said their hospital in Kakamega, which actually served in total over 4 million people, had one or at the most maybe 2 functioning incubators. So they had a horrible problem with the mortality rate for newborns was 6 times higher than in the US, and for expectant mothers was 30 times higher. So we set out to do a grant, and actually it morphed into a much bigger grant than it would have been to build the medical clinic. This was a $136,000 global grant. We got $80,000 of which to purchase equipment. You can go ahead on through some of the other slides there. There's a shot of them, the mothers lining up with their babies for a chance to put their baby in an incubator along with 2 other babies. So they put 3 babies in the incubator at the same time for a limited time. So that shows you the desperation that existed there with that situation. There's some shots of the hospital building itself prior to the project. The government ended up partnering with us to the tune of $60,000 to renovate the structure of the building. The grant itself was $80,000 to buy new equipment. There's how they were getting their water. The water facilities have been improved greatly through the money that's been channeled in from the government associated with the grant. So it was a horrible situation there in the maternity wing of that hospital in Kakamega. And of the grant money, $80,000 was to purchase new equipment. The other $56,000 was to finance a team of doctors to travel from the U.S. to their hospital to train the doctors and nurses there with the new equipment and new birthing techniques and whatnot. So here's the Alice Atano, who was the president of the Kakamega Rotary Club, doing a special event, fundraising event they did to raise money within their club for the project. And then the lady, Alinda, standing next to her, was from Vancouver, but she spent half of her year in Kakamega and was a vital member of that club. So then there's some of the equipment we purchased. So the team that went there to train them was from Johns Hopkins University. I'll tell you more about them in a second. There's some of the new, you saw the renovation being done in the building. There's the team that went from Johns Hopkins, one lady from University of Nebraska College of Nursing in Kearney was part of the team. The rest of them from Johns Hopkins. The way we connected with them was a miracle of God. I could tell you a lot about this project with divine intervention that's allowed it to happen. A lot of it involves my son Craig, and here you see the team giving instruction to the doctors and nurses at the hospital in the renovated portion of the hospital done by the government. So they had baby mannequins the Johns Hopkins people brought. Artificial uteruses, the same equipment they used to train, right there, artificial uterus to train their residents at Johns Hopkins. They brought that equipment along to train these people, then left the equipment there so they could continue training others. Johns Hopkins donated all that. So they were another partner with us, as well as several Rotary clubs and several Rotary districts. So there you see the governor speaking at a media event to dedicate the new wing of the maternity wing of the hospital and their new equipment. While he was there, he said he'd been so inspired by what he'd seen Rotary do there, that he was committed now to making healthcare a top priority in his administration and his budget. And by the time we went back there a year ago, February, to see the progress of this grant, Bob and I toured that hospital, and there you see us touring the hospital. You'll see the new incubators and all the new equipment. And we walked around the hospital, and the whole thing is renovated, and asked the hospital administrator, what the heck happened here? He said the governor actually followed through with his promise, and he donated or allocated another $2 million to renovate the rest of the hospital, because he said, this is beautiful, this maternity wing. Why shouldn't the rest of our hospital be as nice as this? So he did that. And then also they're well underway of construction of a brand new hospital right adjacent to it. This is a level 5 hospital where we were. This new one's going to be a level 6, one of 4 level 6 hospitals in Kenya. They think it'll be the number 1 or number 2 hospital in Kenya when it's completed. And that's another thing the governor has decided to do. The hospital administrator told us that Rotary provided the spark for all of this. He said, if you guys hadn't been here, if you hadn't done this project, none of this would be happening right now. So it's incredible just how it's unfolded, and it just continues to amaze all of us. I got a couple shots in here of a few of Alice's schools, who was the president of the Rotary Club there. She's got 3 schools with about 1,000 kids altogether. Half of them are orphans, and they had a school and boarding house, one of the 3 that burned down just about 6 months ago. So they're desperately trying to rebuild there. So we've had, we linked up. I was invited to speak at a Rotary Club in Florida, and a couple clubs from that district decided to do a global grant to provide new boys and girls environmentally efficient and environmentally friendly bathrooms for the kids in 2 of the 3 schools. We bought a couple milk cows with some extra funds we had from donors, and they're starting to build a herd there in the village of Chikunga, where Craig and I were for the eye care. Also a fish farm, $2,000. We invested in that, and they had their first big harvest of fish about 6 months ago or so, and big deal in the village. Many of the orphans there had never ever had fish, so they've got fresh milk and fresh fish. And here's a shot of my son Craig, the leader of the village of Chikunga. We're almost done here, but the leader of the village of Chikunga, Pastor Malaho, had for many years had a dream of eventually having a medical clinic built in their village. And like I say, we had to abandon that effort with the global grant because the people there have no money to be able to pay for any medical services. And so we couldn't point to an income stream that could prove the long-term sustainability of a project like that. So we took a different approach, but my son Craig passed away. Sorry, 5.5 years ago, just about 3 months before he graduated from optometry school. And a lot of this is inspired by his memory. A lot of things have happened that strangely relate to him with the global grant. And now when he passed away, Pastor Malaho started referring to the clinic as a dream of someday, hopefully he would that this would someday happen. He started calling it the Craig Memorial Cottage Hospital. Now it's called the Craig Memorial Rotary Clinic because Rotary has had so much to do with it. But what we've done, and this is one of the main things I know we wanted us to talk about, was that we kind of took a different approach since we couldn't get a global grant, we got several of the clubs in our district to partner with us, their district grant funds. Because a lot of these clubs, they never get around, as you well know, all of you on this call, a lot of clubs don't get around to applying for district grants, and their district grant money, their DDF just kicked back to Rotary Foundation. So they lose it or they lose it. And we thought, let's get a hold of some of those clubs and see if they just want to partner with us. And at first nothing was happening, and then it just broke loose. And for the first year, last year, we got, I think, 10 clubs for about $10,000. And then this year, now we've got 15 clubs. A lot of the same ones came back, and all they had to do is just tell us they wanted to be part of the project with us, because we said, we'll apply, we'll take care of applying for the grant. And you just tell us you want to be part of it, and we'll put your name down. You pay your 25% cash of the DDF that you have to contribute. You have to pay 25% of that in cash from your club. And as long as you're willing to do that, then you can partner with us. And so it makes it it's been very easy and streamlined for them to jump on board. So we got probably 15 clubs and probably $15,000 to $20,000 coming in this year. Many of other individuals, doctors who had been spoken, I'd spoke to some doctors about eventually going there to provide services. These were people that I knew, but also that knew my son Craig. And in total, now there have been 5 doctors and their wives who've each donated $5,000 a piece to the project. So we have raised, with other individual donors, we've raised over $70,000. And you'll see some photos of the clinic well under construction. They're putting the roof on right now, and I don't have any shots of that. There's the groundbreaking ceremony. And the clinic is, we have a floor plan, I think, of it at about, I don't know that you can, that's the external, maybe there's a floor plan. I hope I put a floor plan in there. No, guess not. Anyway, several exam rooms, a lab for lab work, X-ray. The X-ray department is probably going to be built outside of the actual clinic itself due to the necessary steps needed to protect people from radiation. So there you see some of the work being done, and the slab being built there. There's a couple shots here, I think, of the walls going up. So it's well underway, and we have enough money. We think it's costing more than we figured, like everything around the world is, with material costs going up due to COVID issues and whatnot. But we think we can get it built for probably the $70,000 that we have raised. Then we'll begin raising funds for the for equipment for the clinic. And our idea is to have clinic, have medical team missionaries of various specialties rotating through that clinic periodically. Due to the project we did at the nearby Kakamega County Hospital, 35 kilometers away, the hospital administrator has vowed to partner with us and to help provide continuity of care. There's a nearby medical school, and some of the medical students will likely be rotating through that clinic to help provide services. And we're going to have surgery, more major surgeries done at the hospital, and arrange to have people from the village and surrounding areas transported there for cataract surgeries and other more major surgeries. So we hope a lot of good is going to happen, and people from the village and a large surrounding area are very excited about seeing their medical services become available to them. Another thing I thought I'd mention before closing is, a lot of these clubs that have partnered with us, they're smaller clubs and they don't really have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of DDF, and they're struggling with their membership. The members are aging and they're having trouble getting younger members in. I think these young people are particularly enthused about international service, and it's a good way to connect with them and draw them into Rotary. Our own club, Bob and myself belong to a club that's got a lot of young, vibrant members. And these smaller clubs, when they partner with us on these things, we're encouraging them to get media coverage on that in their area, so that everybody knows that they're involved in something big in a different part of the world where it's really needed. And it kind of helps to tell the Rotary story to the media, and in a way that these small clubs would otherwise have a hard time rising above the radar, to get much recognition from the public or from media. So I think that's about it. I hope I didn't run too much over the 10 minutes I've been. Probably did. I apologize for running long.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Kim,
Scott,
thank
you want to provide a couple comments there?
Yeah, just a couple comments to wrap things up here. That was a long way to get there, but I think it's very, very helpful for you guys to see that in this case, where we had a project that morphed into many projects, bigger projects, that it also helped to engage other clubs to get involved in something that they either had never done before. In the case of a grant, an international project, it gave members in those clubs purpose. To a person, those people will tell you that they've been involved with an international project in Kenya when none of them have ever gone there, but they take ownership in that. And so from that standpoint, it's been very, very good for our district bonding together as a group of clubs, and members within the club being able to participate in something that they probably would have never thought of doing had Kim not gone out and invited them to be a part of this project in the early days. So Kim, thank you very much. Great project, great synergy, and something that I would encourage all of you to think about in the bigger scope of things. When you start looking for partners on projects, think about your other clubs in the district. Most of the time we don't do that. We look outside of the district. But in this case, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that because of the rules with the Rotary Foundation not being able to build buildings was part of the reason that we took this into the district grant realm, so that we could do some things that we couldn't necessarily do with TRF money with a global grant. So this gave us some flexibility to do some things with people making personal contributions and finding outside investors to be able to build part of the building where the TRF funds weren't being used for them. So thank you, Kim. It's good to see you too.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you're on this, Scott. You had so much to do with all of this and wouldn't have happened without you.
Thanks, guys.